Hey, it's the Vortex. Just trying to think of a video subject. Feel a bit blocked at the minute, definitely. Mentally blocked somewhat. Starting programming again, which is good. Started work properly again, so that's a good thing. I had the idea I had in mind was to discuss art again. You know, art in the world that we find ourselves in now, which is getting more worrying. The predominant theme, I think, of the age we're in now is worry, mixed with a sense of paranoia. I mean, we are in an information war. This is strange for me because I actually created a large painting several years ago called Information War, and now we find ourselves in one. This is a sort of tendency I've had in my paintings in some way to almost like in some ways, sort of predict future events for. And I'm not saying this is literally true. I'm not saying I'm Nostradamus or something because, well, if you follow that logic too far, then madness, schizophrenia, and delusion is the end conclusion of that. Often. But anyway, so it's more coincidental moments where, you know, things I've painted or images or symbols have become flesh. It might take 4 years, 3 years, 4 or 5 years. Like there's a recent example of my intuition when this war in Russia started was that it would go where it's ended up going, unfortunately. That the painting I painted 5 months ago basically portrays what is happening now. So how do we as artists respond to what's going on in the world, like right now? The Nord gas has been leaked. There's elevations, thousands of Russian men fleeing from, being called up to a war that they don't want to be involved in. So, I mean, what do we do with that? How can we deal? We're dealing with a lot at the minute, to say the least. I mean, when I say we, I mean the collective we, the collective unconscious, the collective mind of humanity in Jungian terms, right? Some people would call this God, some people would call it humanity, some people would call it, the collective mind, the collective unconscious mind. What do we, how do we deal with this? How do we, look at as men, obviously we have to deal, I think a lot of men are dealing with this at the minute, in many different ways, but I'll start personally, I might as well start talking personally in regards to that. I feel a toughening up of my spirit in some ways, if I was to describe it as such. Something like, it's almost like my mind is preparing itself for anything, like mentally and physically. I'm preparing myself for whatever might happen. I'm afraid. Like, I know people in Russia. I have many friends in Russia who've now managed to, get out, but also in the West, I think we are worried as well, obviously, because we don't want a further escalation of the war into a further conflict. It would be obviously the thing that I worry about personally, because let's just approach this from many angles, right? So on the personal level, obviously I worry that if the war gets worse, then I myself and my friends who are just normal guys, will get caught up and have to fight in a war that we don't want it either. Like, we don't want it. We just want to get on with our lives, do our work. I do technical work. I work on computers, and I find joy in that. I find a pleasure in that work. It can be frustrating at times. Like, I've literally got some open here, which I'm going to have a look at quickly, and I'll just talk while I'm doing that, actually. And of course, we're afraid. I mean, you'd be a fool not to be afraid of the concept of the very real, not even the concept, the reality of what it would mean, because, I've obviously engaged in fantastical violence because video games are a form of fantastical violence. Films, media, a lot of media we consume generally as people, human beings, comic books, stories, contain violence, because violence exists within us, men and women as well. Actually, I mean, one could probably say that the very act of birth itself is a violent act. You are basically, your mother looks after you in the womb for a long gestation period, and then you're sort of spat out into this world and you have to deal with it, right? So that is a sort of violence, and I think in a lot of ways us men are sort of constantly striving for that womb feeling, and the feeling of being safe. So like in a way, the way that we really always feel safe usually is when we're under the care of a woman or a feminine person, like who just soothes us somewhat, but also it doesn't give us an easy time when required as well. That's also part of it. I don't know where I'm going with this, but I just thought I'd reel off some thoughts. And let's get this gallery working. So anyway, we're just working on a video game thing with Python, which I'm not actually that familiar with. So trying to find my way around again. I don't know where I'm going with this. I'll just keep it rolling because it's probably of interest to some people out there. I don't know, really. It just feels like we're such a mess, Like we've some WordPress files are well, it's a very odd name. Sorry, just got distracted. Like there's like some WordPress variable or something called nonce or something. Just like no. Back to what I was talking about. It's just bizarre. I don't know, PHP naming sort of. Anyway, programmers and their weird naming conventions, I guess. I was trying to find that gallery thing, wasn't I? I don't know. I mean, it's all jumbled, obviously. There's a jumbled thoughts, a stream of consciousness, right? But I think the basic thing is, in this situation, I've thought about war before, and I've consumed plenty of media about it, and I've always been anti-war because I think it's pointless. I mean, what do we gain by if we're fighting each other with a sword, with fists, with bullets? I mean, bullets are not pleasant. They will, fundamentally ruin someone's body and life forever. It's not funny. It's not a joke. That will render somebody potentially just ruin their life completely, right? So I don't know. I mean, I don't think the real prospect of a Europe-wide war at the minute isn't that. There is a danger of it, but it's not that present. So I guess the thing that we men worry about is, how do we step up? How do we remain, in moral terms, as good human beings as we can remain? That's a challenging thought, I think, that's going on in a lot of low. Like, I've even talked to a friend about this. I said, if things get bad, I might have to join the RAF. I've had generations of my family have been in the Royal Air Force, and I've almost look exactly the. I mean, I've literally got the earphones on that make me look like a bit of a pilot, I look like a pilot already, but I'm just rambling obviously now, but you know what I mean. I think, hopefully I hope for peace. I hope for peace. I want the peace to come. I don't want there to be any more war, and I want but then the horrible reality of it now is that we might not have that choice soon. We might not have a choice. And as soon as you don't have a choice, then that's, it's almost like fate. You are fated for whatever comes next. And that's a scary thought. I'm 36, I'm still got plenty of my life left. Still got plenty of life for me, Like, I want to carry on living. I want to be a father. I want to have a son or a daughter, that almost happened to me as well. So the fact that it was sort of stolen away, it would feel, like just terrible if I couldn't at least have another go at trying to just become like a man, you know, like and have a family, and that's it really. Like, and of course, we as men naturally want to rear families, you know. Of course we do. We want to. It brings out the best side of us, you know, our best. You know, the dad inside us all is the sort of lovely. I mean, my dad's a great. Like, I'll just go to my dad. Like, my dad's like a legend. Like, he took us to loads of metal music, introduced us to loads of music, gave us the ability to grow as we wanted to as men. Like, look at me. Like, how could you say? Look at my face. Look at this face, right? Just deeply look at it. Like, look at this stupid smile. Like, the teeth of even horrifies me to look at them. How could like? But my dad looks at this stupid face, right? and loves it, and like me, same for my dad and all. Like, I just left him actually recently. We had a few days together quite recently, which was a lot of fun. My dad's got a very good sense of humour, classic sense of humour. But you know, oh god, the worst time for the Red Alert music to come on. I did used to like listening to all this sort of like very anthemic Soviet Union music, but not so much anymore. Anyway. I think I'll end this video here, but I hope I was, you know, trying to just provide an honest account of some of the thoughts and worries and anxieties swirling around my head with regard to the situation in Ukraine, the war in Ukraine, really, not situation. I'm going to erase that word from my vocabulary. So it's a war that's being fought. So you might as well deal with the reality of it. And now I've got all that shouting in my ear now. Anyway, hope any of that made sense on any level. No more war, right? Yeah.